Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be going over decimal word problems for your SOL review. Now, with decimal word problems, this is going to serve as your quick notes for today. And luckily for you, for this particular section, calculators are allowed. So somewhere at the top of your paper, I just want you to go ahead and write calculators allowed, or you could even kind of write it off to the side. So I'm just going to write calculators allowed. Okay, so now that we have that information down, we can go ahead and work on these word problems. Anytime you have a word problem, whether it's dealing with decimals or fractions, percentages, whatever it may be, it's always a good idea to obviously, one, read the problem, and two, underline important information. So the next thing after we do that, we want to then look for keywords. We want to show our work, and then we want to write our answer with the correct units demonstrated on there. All right, so let's take a look at the first problem. It says Cynthia gets paid $7.75 per hour. On Monday, Cynthia worked 4 hours. On Wednesday, she worked 7 hours. And on Saturday, 6 hours. How much money will Cynthia make? All right, so for this problem, what I would do is I would underline the $7.75 per hour. I would also underline the 4 hours. I would also underline the 7 hours as well as the 6 hours. And another thing I would also underline is how much money, okay? So all of that is important. Now when it says for keywords, some keywords that we had in this problem, I would say would be per hour. I would also say how much. And then I would say all the numbers. Okay, so I'll just write numbers for that. Okay, so now let's kind of figure out what it is that we need to do in order to solve this problem. She makes $7.75 an hour and she worked a certain amount of hours. So the first thing we're probably going to want to do is know how many hours she worked altogether. So to do that, we're going to want to add all of those hours. So the first one was 4. So let's write 4 plus another 7 hours. Plus another 6 hours. Now, if you needed your calculator, you could use your calculator for that, but I do need to see that you are adding these 3 numbers. Now, when you add 4 plus 7 plus 6, it gives you 17. So that's the total amount of hours that Cynthia worked. That doesn't tell us how much money she made. Now, if she's making $7.75 per hour, when I hear per hour, I'm thinking of multiplication. So for this, I'm going to take the $7.75 and multiply that times 17 hours because that's how long she worked for those 3 days. So you can use your calculator for that, but again, I do need to see that this is what you're putting into the calculator. I'll give you a moment to do that. You can pause the video if you need to. And what you get for your answer is $131.75. So when we write our answer, we're going to make sure we include our units, which is dollars, and I'm going to write $131.75. Okay, so that's how much Cynthia made. So just to kind of recap, we underlined important information, we wrote down the keywords, we showed our work, just what we're putting in the calculator, and then we get our answer with the units. The next problem says Vince and his 2 friends decided to have a garage sale. The group made $342, but had to pay $12 to advertise the garage sale. If the money earned is split evenly, how much money will each person earn after expenses? So important information I would underline, I'm looking at Vince and his 2 friends. So that means that's a total of 3 people, not just Vince. I also would like to underline made $342 and the pay $12. Then it says if the money earned is split evenly, how much will each person earn? So all of that, and after expenses, all of that is important information that we need to include. All right, so for keywords, I'm going to say 3 people. I'm just going to abbreviate here. So 3 people. Obviously, the numbers are important. And I'm going to put down pay. I'm going to put down split. And I'm going to put down each. Okay, so these are all important words or buzzwords, if you will, that are indicating what it is that we need to do. Okay, So they made a total of $342, but they had some expenses to pay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the $342 and I'm going to subtract the expenses. The expenses were $12. So again, if you need your calculator, that's fine. Let's do 342 times, or I'm sorry, subtracting 12, and we get 330. That is not our final answer. That's just how much they made altogether after expenses. Now we need to figure out how much each person is going to get. So if you did a garage sale and you had two friends and you're like, hey, let's split this money, what would you do in order to solve? You would take the $330 that you made and divide it between the three of you. So I'm going to do 330 divided by 3. I'm going to give you a moment to put that in the calculator if you need to. You can pause the video. When we do 330 divided by 3, we get 110. So for this problem, for our answer, each person ends up with $110, and that's after expenses have been taken out. For the next problem, it says the Johnson family is planning a vacation to the Bahamas. Their budget allows $1,300 for airfare. Each ticket costs $287.32, and there are 4 family members. Will the Johnsons stay under or go over their budget? How much over or under? All right, so look in here. Some important information that I would underline is budget. Okay, and the budget is $1,300. I'm also going to underline each ticket costing $287.32. It's also important that there are 4 family members, and the question wants to know if we're going to either stay under or go over the budget, and by how much. So when it says for keywords, I'm going to put budget. Other keywords, the numbers, as well as each. And then I'm going to put stay under or over. Whoops, over. And then how much? Okay, so now that we have that information, let's kind of figure out how we're going to solve it. So we know that there's 4 family members and tickets are $287.32 a piece. So it kind of would help us out if we knew how much money it was going to cost altogether. So I could take $287.32 and add that 4 times, or I could do it a faster way, which would be taking $287.32 and multiplying it times the 4 family members. Okay, you can have a moment to put that in the calculator. Pause if you need to. Once you do, you end up with $1,149.28. Now that is just how much it's going to cost for them to go on a plane for airfare. Now we need to figure out whether they were over or under their budget. Well, if their budget was $1,300 and we only used up about $1,150, so to speak, they ended up staying under their budget. So I'm going to take the $1,300 and subtract the actual cost of the tickets so that we can find how much money they basically saved, or stayed under, I should say, for their budget. So you can put that in the calculator, pause if you need to, and you end up with $150.72. So for this, for our answer, we're going to say under by $150.72. Okay? All right, for the last problem, it says animals and people need calcium in their diets. There are 0.288 grams of calcium in 1 glass of milk. Eric's cat drinks 3 glasses of milk a day. How much calcium is in 3 glasses of milk? So important information I would underline is 0.288 grams of calcium in 1 glass. And we know that Eric's cat drinks 3 glasses of milk each day. So it says how much calcium, how much is in 3 glasses. So keywords for this, I would basically say the numbers. And then I would basically put how much. Okay, so if 1 glass is 0.288 grams and we need 3 glasses, instead of adding 0.288 3 times, we can just put 0.288 and multiply that times 3. I'll give you a moment to put that in the calculator. Pause if you need to. When you get your answer is 0.864. So for our answer, we're going to say that the cat drinks, or at least gets, 0.864 ounces, or I'm sorry, not ounces, grams of calcium each day. Okay? So just to kind of recap what we did, for all of these problems, we underlined important information. We then wrote down what our keywords were. We showed our work, but the work that we showed was just what we put in the calculator. Notice I didn't have to sit there and, for instance, with this problem, I didn't say, oh, okay, let me show my division with 3 and 330 and start doing all that. You don't need to do that. All I need to know is what is it that you're putting into the calculator to get your answer. So that's what I need to see for the work. The moment you stop showing any type of work, that's when you lose your calculator, and then you're really going to have to show everything. Okay. Now, if you look on the back of this worksheet, you'll see decimal word problem practice. That's going to be your practice for today. Now, if you notice, it does not have keywords or an answer column. It just has the problem and it has the work. Now, what I'm requiring you to do is I'm requiring you to underline the important information within the problem, and then you still need to show your work just like we did, and then just circle your answer, okay? Making sure you include your units if there's any units involved in there. I will allow you to work with a partner, someone who's sitting around you. We're not getting out of our seats or anything like that. The moment that you can't handle it, you're off task, not focused, misbehaving, whatever it may be, then it's going to turn into individual work. Afterwards, we'll go over underneath the lumens and we will go over each problem. We'll be asking students to say what important information they underlined, what work they did, and the answer that they ended up getting. So make sure you do that information on your decimal word problem practice.